Wednesday. Hey everyone, welcome to Wellness Wednesday. It is me, your girl Christian Jackson, your licensed mental health and wellness professional homegirl and daddy issues expert. Thank you guys for joining me live here for another edition of Wellness Wednesday with CJ. I am broadcasting live right here on my Instagram page at Couch with Christian. I'm also here at Couch with Christian on my Facebook page. So hey to y'all and my YouTube followers, which I think I have like 25 subscribers. So that is dope. I wouldn't be mad if y'all left this real quick, this broadcast, find my YouTube page, liked and subscribe this video and come right back in, or you can stay right there on YouTube and watch me live or catch me on the replay. So thank you guys so much for your support so far. It's been amazing. And you guys DM me all the time with random questions, whether you were looking for a counselor or what. But let me introduce myself to people who may not know who I am, which is totally plausible, right? I am Christian Jackson. I'm a licensed therapist right here in the state of South Carolina. Hey, Charlene on Instagram, I saw her. So I'm a licensed therapist here in South Carolina. I have been doing this therapy thing for a while now. Most recently, I have really honed my skill set and my practice into dealing with people's traumas and helping them walk through those things, right? So if you're watching right here on Facebook, on YouTube, you see down here, I'm calling myself the Daddy Issues Expert because what I have done is written a book and its workbook called Daddy Issues, How to Detangle from the Sins of Our Fathers. It is a book that I wrote out of my own emotional trauma dealing with my difficult relationship with my dad. I am not talking to him today. That is a spoiler. And I want to tell you guys that if you are new to my page or who I am and my Daddy Issues movement that we are launching, the book is not how to get in touch with your father and forgive and be amazing, right? Because that's not everyone's story. It is not mine. So the author didn't come from that angle, just so you guys know. It is a manual, I like to call it sometimes, for women who have relationships with their fathers on different parts of the spectrum, right? So whether you have a solid relationship, you're the daddy's girl, or you had a father who was absent emotionally or physically, neglectful or abusive, this book is for you because I am painting a picture for women who have been ostracized for having daddy issues. And I see a couple of people here live. Please feel free to comment or come back on the replay and comment, and I'll go ahead and respond and engage with you. What is it that you've heard about daddy issues, about women with daddy issues? We get a bad rap, right? So what I'm doing with my clinical license, right, as a therapist and as a professional is painting this picture for you so that you know what daddy issues are. So in the beginning of the book, I'm telling you, what is it that daddy issues are? I'm painting the picture of a woman who is dealing with separation anxiety, some abandonment, rejection issues, what this looks like as far as insecurities, trust issues. For myself, I had to struggle with identity issues for a little while. I went to therapy, and a lot of the work that I've done on myself and with women individually already, it's stuff that I know that works. I just packaged it together, and the book is a great opportunity for you to get to know me and my story with that issue so that you can say, you know what, sis, me too, right? And then in between each chapter, what you're going to find are self-reflection questions because it is very triggering work, y'all. It's not fun to work through your daddy issues or any issue for that matter when you're going to therapy because it can touch on your stuff and pull on your stuff. But baby, when you tap into that power and you figure out that you actually have what you need to actually work through the things and challenge the lies, which we're going to get to today in Wellness Wednesday, today here on 5/5/21, when you realize you can tap into this power and do the work that you need to heal and that you have had it the whole time, light bulbs go off and therapy becomes a lot more fun, if I'm going to be honest, right? But this book, along with the workbook, if you do these things together and you pace yourself, you can have about a year and a half's worth of therapy and for less than $50. So you can go to my website, www.couchwithchristian.com. You can purchase my book, get to know me and about the movement, because not only do we have the book, sis, okay, we also have the Daddy Issues Healing Circle based on the workbook, right? So you can see on the workbook, I wrote my workbook because I'm also facilitating the group, but I'm participating too, right? So the book is for women. I knew when I wrote this book that I wanted to have a live group to walk women through the contents of the book, which this workbook expands upon the self-reflection questions and the things that you have read going on into it, right? So I give you self-care activities and suggestions so that you can bring yourself down as you're triggered when you're reading the book. And I have to just be transparent about that, right? So May 3rd, this past Monday, we had our first inaugural, you guys, group of women for the Daddy Issues Healing Circle, right? Everything. Okay. First of all, I love group, first of all. Okay. But when I got to see those 6 women come together and support and pour into each other on night 1, when really we're just kind of doing some orientation type stuff, but we're doing some light work because we're also engaging in the Facebook group that comes with being in the actual Daddy Issues Healing Circle. These women have shared things that they didn't expect to share that night. That was some of the feedback I got the next day, and actually that night. It's a safe space for women to come and bounce ideas off each other on how to care for themselves, and for you to say, you know what, sis, I know that you had gone through that, and that sounds really tough, and I'm here to support you through that, and I know I'm going to learn from you. The Daddy Issues Healing Circle is officially launched. She lit. I can't wait to tell y'all how it's going. It's closed for now, because this cohort is going to be an 8-week group, right? And if you want to know more, you can go to my website, go to the bottom of the page. You can apply there. The group is for women, and it's a closed group, and I will be offering it a couple more times throughout the year. So please feel free to DM me with questions and how you can be down for the Daddy Issues Healing Circle. And I know I keep talking about this material being for women, right? And it is a woman that wrote the book for women, because that's just the space that I'm coming from. It's how I identify. But I do want to let you guys know that I had a couple of male friends read my book, and they also got a lot out of it too. And so I'm playing with the idea of doing something for men. Let me know if that's something that you may want to see. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Even if you are identifying as a male and you want to read the book, it is not a closed option for you, right? So that is me. That's the project I have going on, the movement that I am heading for. And I'm hoping that you guys can kind of make that noise a little bit louder as we spread the gospel that is overcoming daddy issues. Okay, so let's get into it. Tonight, every Wednesday, what I've been doing for the last few weeks is getting with you guys and talking about mental health awareness. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. So, hey, happy May. And actually, it's my birthday month. So shout out to all the Tauruses here ready for this season, the Bulls, right? I am excited to share with you guys some things that have been coming up in groups and, in some sessions and just common conversations. And in light of Mental Health Awareness Month, I want you all to be aware of thinking errors. Okay, so if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, you'll be able to see the tickers at the bottom where I'm going to just share with you a few of the names of the thinking errors that I do see a lot, that I experience a lot because I'm a human. So if you're watching on Instagram and you want to go rewatch on YouTube or Facebook, then you'll be able to see those things. I'm going to name them for you. When I'm in session, a lot of what I'm doing is teaching people to just pay attention to their thoughts. Literally, that is what CBT is, cognitive behavioral therapy. It is a chance for us to take some time and say, you know what, my self-talk is really why I'm probably a little anxious, right? Like I'm talking myself up into being depressed, or down to being depressed, or up to be anxious, or whatever it may be. So a lot of what therapy is with me, a lot of the trauma work that I'm doing with people is really trying to get to the root, to figure out where and who may have planted inside of your head certain messages, right? So I had a really powerful conversation with a young man earlier today, and it was really enlightening for me and just warmed my heart to watch the light bulb go off so that he could actually make the connection to see who his certain messages came from about expectations of him, right? And so there's a lot of pressure that we put on our kids and messages that we are carrying from childhood that do not serve us anymore. And so what I do in therapy, and likely what your therapist may do, or what you know about how this works, is that we have to go back in and figure out what those patterns are. We have to become curious about what we have going on in our minds so we can break and challenge those messages that don't serve us anymore, right? And I say anymore because for us as trauma survivors, some of those messages served us for a while. I need to stay away from dogs because I was bitten by a dog and I know I just need some time, I need some space, right? But after a while, if we're in our 30s and 40s and we're still scared of dogs, there's something else that we just we've carried with us for a long time and it's morphed into something bigger than what it is. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And some messages didn't serve us at all, right? They were just straight up lies. And so one of the things that I use in therapy, I'm giving this to y'all for free, is a list of common thinking errors, okay? And so there are 10 of them. And because I do not spend a lot of time here on Wellness Wednesday, I know how your attention spans are. I relate, it's the same. I'm going to just give you half of them today. And I'm going to invite you cordially to come with me next week on Wellness Wednesday and get the other half. So there are 10 common thinking errors, and I want to jump right into what they are. So a very common one is called all or nothing thinking, right? So all or nothing thinking is also called black or white thinking, neither nor thinking. It's a very common thinking error that has us saying, you know what, either I'm perfect, I'm a great mom in light of Mother's Day, right? I'm an amazing mother because I give my kids broccoli. They have all the activities going on and they're amazing. Or I'm a terrible mom. There's no in between, right? So all or nothing thinking has us stuck, right? Either we're here or we're here. We're on this side of the spectrum or we're not. We're on this side or we're not. And that is dangerous because that leaves you no grace, no room for thinking for any kind of thoughts of positivity or cutting yourself a break. No room for benefit of the doubt. So for women with daddy issues, and I'll speak to for on behalf of myself and the women that I've treated, this may look like I am a great daughter because I got an all A's, and I know that's what I need to do to get daddy's attention. So how does that morph into different relationships? How does that look for us who are people pleasers and performers, right? Either I'm great or I'm not. Because what I'm doing is working, it's catching the attention that I wanted, or it's just not. Instead of saying, back to the mom example, I put a roof over my kids' head. I play with them. I do interact with them. I love them. We talk. Just because I didn't give them something green on their plate, it does not mean I'm a bad mom, right? But for some people who are stuck on either side of the spectrum, you're beating yourself up. That is black and white thinking. If I say, I'm a great daughter only if daddy gives me this attention because I got all A's or I were in first place in the recital, then that's unfair to you because you're thinking about all the things that you just done for yourself. You're a decent human being. What about that part, right? So why is it that some people's happiness is contingent upon other people's opinion of them, right? A lot of that is born out of things that people have told us. Going back to my previous point, it is important for you to think about who poured into your spirit, who encouraged you when you were younger. Where is this black and white thinking coming from? So that all or nothing thinking, one quick way, just a thing that I may share later in a different video, how to challenge these thoughts, are just to kind of think about the gray area. A lot of people don't like to think about that, and they believe that the gray area is dangerous. And I understand it just depends on the situation, but where are you giving yourself grace? What are you doing for yourself to talk yourself out of the negative thinking, right? Another piece that is important for us, the second thinking error for you guys on Instagram, I know you're not seeing my little tickers here, but it's overgeneralizing, right? So overgeneralizing says, you know what? I didn't cut that one deal, so I must be the worst realtor ever. I'm never going to be great at what I do as a professional. If I got into an argument and I cussed my daddy out, I must be a terrible daughter, just period, right? Now that's a whole different layered situation there. That's something I actually have done. I'm not super proud of. It was just some misguided and misdirected assertion of my voice, right? So that's something that we have to recalibrate. But I thought I was a terrible person and that I would never be loved because my own daddy didn't love me or I didn't feel the love from my daddy, right? So for women with daddy issues, what is it that you may be generalizing when it comes to relationships? I hear that a lot. So some people will come to therapy, and I've heard a lot about, women learning from their parents, don't trust men, right? That's a very common thing I've heard. You can't trust them. All they're going to do is hurt you, break your heart. And that's something that is probably actually evidence of that woman raising a child and they have daddy issues of their own, right? Because it goes back generations. But if I'm going to overgeneralize something and say I can't trust all men because my mama said or my daddy did this to me, that's unfair to you and what you could be experiencing, right? So overgeneralizing, that is something that just steals unique experiences from us. It steals opportunities for us to feel loved, right? Because the guard is up. And that's a whole different talk when it comes to trauma, which is, like I said, my jam. And if you have questions, I can totally let you know what that looks like. In order to overgeneralize, to challenge the overgeneralized thinking, it's going to be important for you to, I think, consider creating safe experiences with people, right? So if you're one who learned that men are not safe, for example, then how can you create a safe experience with a man, right? Do you have friendships or a teacher or someone that you looked up to who was male, identified as a male, and gave you a positive experience. What does that look like for you? And how can you go back to that experience to kind of paint a different picture for yourself? That is one way that you can challenge over generalizing. Another thing that we do to ourselves, folks, is filtering out the positive, which sounds like exactly what it is. It's when you have all these things going really well for life and in life, but then you only focus on that one crappy experience, right? So you have a good job, a house, a family, all the like common American dream things, quote unquote, right? But then one thing is wrong. And it may not be a big deal when you objectively look at it. You may even see a friend with this quote unquote wrong thing and be like, sis, you tripping. But for you, it's a big deal. So we don't want to minimize what you believe may be wrong. That is not what I'm saying. But what is the self-talk behind that, and why is it that you can only focus on that wrong thing? I'm going to tell you the secret, okay? For us who are trauma survivors, for me, for example, I may feel safe focusing on the wrong thing out of the sea of quote unquote goodness because I got to make sure this wrong thing stays in its place. It's a protective factor, right? So if I'm like, okay, I need to prepare for the thing I know that's going to go wrong, of course, now my whole world begins to be painted with this negative view. So if we're filtering out the positive, it's because, the positive don't necessarily feel that safe. I'm not used to it. My own therapist told me when I finally got a good handle on my anxiety at one point in our treatment together, she said, it's kind of like a best friend. I was talking to my other friend, Jessica, about that. It's like a friend of me, right? So it feels weird when that anxiety is not there, and it's strange. So you can't really necessarily focus on the positive things because it's something that comes out of habit. You feel safer and just waiting for the other shoe to drop. It doesn't feel right, quote unquote. That's something that what happens. And yes, Michelle, you're right. It does spread, right? When you don't think about the positive things, then you kind of, again, rob yourself of an experience that really could be fulfilling, right? So the last, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, the next thinking error, because that's what we're talking about today, folks. What gets in the way of you actually experiencing joy and managing your actual self-talk? These are thinking errors. They're barriers to us feeling secure and actually having a handle on what we are telling ourselves. This next one is very common. It's called mind reading. Again, another one that sounds exactly what it says. Mind reading is something like, you know what? He must not be coming home or calling, or he might not be calling me, quote unquote. This is what I hear a lot. He may not be calling me because he's with somebody else. Like, you don't even know what's happening, or he must be looking at me because he thinks that my hair is crazy and he must not like it. So we're sitting here doing what Brene Brown calls making up stories, right, in our heads, because our brains have this twisted way of a twisted need to have an answer for everything, especially if we are survivors of trauma. So trauma is not supposed to happen to us. It is very confusing to our bodies, and our mind doesn't know where to file this experience. And so that's where anxiety comes from. It kind of freaks us out. And so the stories in our heads, even if they're not even true, if they have no merit, it just makes sense just to kind of put something there, even if it's false, and just say, you know what, this must be why this is happening, because your brain is going to go nuts trying to figure it out. And I know y'all have probably heard people say, I'm not going to feel better unless I have this answer. And that's what your brain is telling you, right? It's something that is, again, robbing yourself of peace, right? So it's so important here. If you have never celebrated, quote unquote, mental health month, this is a great chance for you to pay attention to what's going on in your self-talk. Mind reading is something that is just stupid because you don't know, nobody can read a mind. Even if you can catch vibes and energies and you can watch body language, there is nothing good that comes out of making assumptions, right? That's just not positive. It doesn't make any sense. So if we're going to talk about combating mind reading, then I think one of the things that you can do is ask questions. Because a lot of the time when we are survivors of trauma, we are robbed of our voices, right? And so it's unfortunate when we have experiences where we know we want to say something, but we can't. And so the mind reading aspect comes from probably us just kind of like having that story in our head and making sense of it on our own because we don't know how to assert ourselves or even ask the question, what's actually going on with you? Ask the question and see. And if you're wrong, it's okay. I literally do that in therapy. I'll say, well, this is what I think I'm picking up. after reflecting it back to a client and they're telling me that it's not it, and that's fine, we move on, right? Using your voice is going to be important, even if it's literally in the mirror, you watching and feeling certain words come out of your mouth, right? Which is actually an exercise I do sometimes. The last thinking error that we're going to cover today, again, I'm going to talk to you next week more about the last 5 thinking errors of the 10 common thinking errors that really just kind of get in the way of your freedom as a person, because there's lots of things that we trap ourselves with, and that is in our brains. So if we are talking about self-talk and blowing things out of proportion, there is something called catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is just that. It's making things bigger than what they are. And this is, again, not to minimize someone's experience by any means, but it is important for you to think about what it is that you are telling yourself. Again, this goes back to the stories that you make up in your head, right? So just please notice at this juncture, with catastrophizing or overgeneralizing, those things could be overlapped, right? So you might be thinking, okay, so sometimes things are really worse than what they actually are. You're falling short on some goals. You're not necessarily meeting people where they are, or the goals you have for yourself. And I'm never going to be happy because I can't make this thing happen at my job. I haven't gotten this promotion yet. I'm never going to be happy with the man because I heard what daddy issues are, and daddy issues are something tough to get over. So I'm never going to be happy. So when you're trying to see if you are catastrophizing, look for those big words, those final words like always, never, um, uh, always and never. Those are 2 big ones. I can't think of other ones. If you know some, throw them in the chat. But things that just don't make sense. Like, ain't nobody always, or all men aren't bad, right? Like those things, all or none, right? So that's another overlap, all or nothing thinking. So what kind of language are you even using? It literally starts here, y'all. It starts in our frontal lobe. That is where we make decisions to say certain things. What side of the brain are you using? Are you using the limbic system? Are you more right brained, or you act out of emotion? Is that why you have certain thinking errors? What is the source of it? I want to say that a lot of good work, if you are doing this on your own or you are doing this work with a therapist, a good first question is, what are my strengths? Think about your errors. And I think I froze on Facebook. Sorry, I think I was making like a really funky face at that time. So I'm back. It looks like I'm moving. But as we wrap this up, you guys, like I was saying, what are your scripts? Who planted these ideas in your head? Who taught you how to make stories up in your head? Who told you that you had to meet certain expectations or you weren't anything? What kind of fear do you believe that whoever parented you is influencing you in your relationships? What is it that your dad taught you, right, for women with daddy issues? And I want to say, as a daddy issues expert, I am fully aware there are lots of things that go into why we think the way we do, right? So I remember writing my book and discovering some mommy issues, right, that I'm working through right now and having to identify. And so those pieces are important. There are lots of people that pour into your life, and they are people that need the healing that you could have access to. So I want to talk to you guys just before we go about healing, looking for therapy. There are great websites that you can go to find a therapist and work through some of these thinking errors on and identify these messages. Psychology Today is a really great one. There's another one, psychologytoday.com, Therapy for Black Girls, Therapy for Black Men. Those are really like my top 3 recommendations when it comes to looking for a therapist, because they're like Facebook profiles. You can kind of read about the therapist you're looking for in your area. You drop your zip code in there and then you get it on. I have people that I don't even know all across the states that text me on like Facebook or Instagram, and I will help them or direct them into looking for a therapist because I have access to different communities. So please don't hesitate to do that either, because if you identify with any of these thinking errors, please drop them in the chat, drop them in the comments. And if you are looking for how to address them, some other tips that I haven't shared, please let me know and I'll be willing to comment with that information. So thank you guys. It is 7:38. I did really good. I like to try to keep it under 30 minutes. Thank you guys for joining me tonight on Wellness Wednesdays with CJ. I'm really excited about where this is going to go, and you guys just like joining in on the grassroots movement, really just to kind of make sure that we are making conversations about mental health normal and okay, because we're not going to be okay unless we talk about it, right? So think about therapy as an opportunity for you to heal your ancestors, right? An opportunity for you to have something and experience something that your elders or your ancestors didn't think they had access to. And look at us here in 2020. So I'm thankful to have this platform and you guys to follow and comment and engage with me. I will catch y'all next time. If you see this video and you're watching it live or you're looking at the replay, please feel free to like and share. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find it on my Facebook page if you're watching on Instagram. Thank you for your time, and y'all have a great Wednesday. I'll see y'all next week for the last 5 thinking errors. Good night.